interesting topics delivered by two distinguished speakers. The first one will be by Dr. Hani Gouey, who will talk about how to prepare for training application. Then Dr. Sarah Abdel-Jalil will speak about human factors in clinical pediatric practice. For questions, please write them down in the chat box and we will try to answer them. However, some of the sessions will be interactive and the speakers will directly to ask questions. So let's start, and let me introduce our first speaker. Dr. Hani Gouey is a pediatric registrar and ST7 pediatric trainee. He is a University of Jazeera graduate, started his pediatric training in Sudan, then moved to Saudi Arabia before finally moving to the UK to continue his training. I will leave you with Hani, who will lead us through the preparation for training application. Hani, the floor is yours.
طيب السلام عليكم.
Recording.
Okay. السلام عليكم. Welcome everybody. أنا السيشن بتاعتي دي هتكون mix in Arabic and English الاثنين مع بعض عشان لتسهيل الفهم وتوصيل المعلومة بشكل أفضل. Feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions, or put your questions in the chat boxes, or send them to the moderator. If I can't see the chat box and there is a question there, Rehab, if you can kindly let me know. طيب أنا هتكلم الليلة عن preparation of how to prepare your training application for pediatrics. نحن طبعا هسه دخلنا في this is the season for applications، بدأ لكل الحاجات. الابلكيشن for ST1-ST4 هتبدأ في الأسبوع الأول من نوفمبر، والابلكيشن ل ST4 هتبدأ في الأسبوع الثاني من نوفمبر. وفي السنتين اللي فاتوا because of COVID طبعا في a lot of changes have been made how the way people were interviewed وكده، حتى انه كان في سنه يعني ما كان انترفيوز خالص واخذوا فيها الناس بس من الابلكيشن فورم، ولانه الناس ما كانت مهتمه بالابلكيشن فورم وكانوا مركزين تماما مع انه الناس حتكون انترفيود وكده، ده ادى لان الناس تهمل الابلكيشن فورم او ما تعبيه بنفس الحماس اللي بتشتغل به في الانترفيو بريباريشن وكده ده. وده طبعا ادى لفيري لو سكورز، انه الناس غالبيه الناس اللي هم ناس كويسين اصلا ومفروض ياخذوا تريننج بوست كانوا كيكت اوت من المنافسه وما اخذوا البوست المفروض ياخذوه، فطبعا كان صراحه ضيق لكل الناس. في حاجات كومون بين كل الليفلز دي طبعا في البيدياتريكس. You can join training from ST1 or ST2 or ST3 or ST4. في اي واحده من الليفلز دي في requirements معينه وفي طريقه محدده انت بتجي نفسك الريكروتنج اوفيس، الناشونال ريكروتمنت اوفيس بتاع بيدياتريكس. بعد كده هم بيعملوا اللونج ليستنج بتاعهم وبيعملوا الشورت ليستنج وبيحددوا مين يجي الانترفيو، وبعد ذاك من الانترفيو بياخدوا سكورينج من الابلكيشن فورم وسكورينج من الانترفيو. بالنسبه للناس اللي هتقدم ل ST1 ST2 على الابلكيشن فورم لحد السنه اللي فاتت كان بياخد 30% من التوتال سكور الفاينل سكور، والانترفيو بتاخد البقيه. بالنسبه للناس المقدمين ل ST3 و4 على الابلكيشن فورم بياخد 50%، وده بوريك الاهميه بتاعت انك how to fill your application form بالطريقه الصح والطريقه الافضل. بتديك فرصه اكبر انك تكون شورت ليستد، وبتديك فرصه اكبر انه الفاينل سكور بتاعك يكون كويس عشان تاخد رانك كويسه وتاخد الجوب اللي انت في الفيرست برايورتيز بتاعتك في البريفرنسنج حقك. خلينا نمشي للسلايد. طيب في حاجات عامه المفروض اي زول يكون عارفها. ما في حضور انك تكون مع deadlines. You need to know the deadlines for application. 200 application will open, 200 application will close. This is very easy انك تعرفها from the Royal College website. يا اخي just Google ST1 ST2 RCPCH training. اول نتيجه بتجيك في جوجل the first result كليك عليها بتوديك الصفحه بتاعت الابلكيشن ل ST1 ST2. The same applies ل ST3 and ST4. just Google ST3 application RCPCH هتوديك للصفحه الاولى. النتيجه الاولى في جوجل هي الصفحه بتاعت التريننج اللي ST3 and ST4، والرويال كوليج بتعمل لها ابديت regularly. الفيكنسيز will be advertised، يعني هتعرف انه في كم جوب طالع السنه دي وفي كم جوب السنه اللي فاتت كانت فيه والمنافسه حقتهم كانت كم لكم وكده. ده كله يكون في الصفحه المعنيه بتاعت الابلكيشن اللي اتكلمنا عنها هسه دي. يعني مثلا زي السنه اللي فاتت مثلا كان في زي قريب 460 بوست ل ST1 ST2 وكده. المنافسه كان يعني بالرغم انه شوف فيه 400 بوست لكن قدموا لها قريبه اكثر من 700 نفر. غالبيتهم تمت يعني دعوتهم لانترفيو كده ده، وبعد ذاك الجوبس اخذوها الناس اللي اخذوها. Everybody needs to read and understand the person specifications specifically بالwording بتاعها. وانا لما نقول الwording انا قاصد هنا حاجه معينه. لما اقول لك الwording يعني شنو؟ لانك انت هسه بعد شويه لما نيجي نتكلم عن الابلكيشن فورم، الطريقه اللي بتعبي بيها الابلكيشن فورم المفروض تكون انت حريص وتاخذها من جوا البيرسون سبيسيفيكيشنز حقتهم. الناس دي عندهم كلمات معينه بيستعملوها، فلو انت استخدمت نفس الكلمات في الابلكيشن فورم بتاعك لكن عملتها بيرسونلايز ليك انت، بتديك سكور احسن وبتخلي your application looking much better as compared لزول ما قرا البيرسون سبيسيفيكيشنز. اذا ما قريت البيرسون سبيسيفيكيشنز انا بنصحك ما تقدم او ما تقدمي. You need to prepare in advance. ما ممكن فجأة تصحى من النوم تقول I want to apply for pediatrics ST1 ولا ST2 ولا ST3 ولا ST4. لازم يكون عندك خطة أصلا من قبلها. أنت you know you are going to apply وعارف ال requirements وقريت ال requirements أو تكلمت مع زول قبل كده هو applied أو تكلمت مع زول senior who is already in training أو كده. Use every experience and encounter. ما في حاجه مهما صغرت in your career as a doctor من ما انت تخرجت او خلينا نقول حتى الاندر جرادويت، يعني من ما انت طالب في كليه الطب. You can use everything to help you build a strong application form and this will help you score better and get you shortlisted for the interview. هنتكلم عن الموضوع ده بعد شويه. Refine your language. دي مسألة بتجي بالزمن طبعا، لكن الفكرة الأساسية إنه اللغة اللي بتستخدمها in expressing yourself in your application form محتاجة لشوية تعديل مرات لأنه نحن كلنا أنا ذاتي يعني بعد ما جيت البلد دي وكذا اتغيرت طريقتي كتير جدا في الابلكيشن فورمز بتاعتي وهاو يو بوت الوردنج بتاعك، كيف الفيربس اللي بتستعمل، شنو البروناونز، الحاجات زي دي، التركيبة بتاعت الجمل ذاتي. يعني نفس الجملة أنت بتكتبها لو اديتها لخواجه عشان يقراها لك حيعيد لك التركيب بتاعها بشكل ثاني. لما أنت تقراها حتقول أنا من الأيام كتبتها كده. sell yourself. ده الغرض الاساسي من الابلكيشن فورم، انك you need to show that an excellent person مش just a good person. انت excellent وان الناس دي they need to يعني give you the job. كويس. so you need to sell yourself as much as you can باحسن طريقه ممكنه. Get someone else to look at your application form. This is an advice. ما بخلي زول انا يعمل submission
مالي. May allow me to interrupt you, but there are some non-Arabic speakers here and they are requesting if you can make it in English, please.
Okay, yes, why not?
Okay, sorry, thanks.
No problem. Get someone else to look at your application form always. This is an advice. I don't advise anyone to submit their application without having it looked by someone senior. When I say someone senior, I mean someone who has been in this country before you, or if you are applying from overseas, a consultant who knows the system of this country, of the NHS, who may have been working here maybe some years ago or something. If you don't know someone where you are working now who can help you with this, just contact BSAPCH and we will be able to help you. Go to the website. There is a contact form. Just fill it and say how you want us to help you, and then we can help you with that. But don't submit your application form without someone else looking at it before. The application form, as you all know, in order to apply for training post in pediatrics, you have to get an account in what is called Oriel NHS. This is a platform for all application forms for training, not just for pediatrics, for all the specialties in medicine and surgery. So you'll have to make an account, username, password, and all that. And then once you go in and you start searching for vacancies, you click on pediatrics, you want to apply for ST1, and then this form will open for you. The form, as you can see, for application is quite extensive. It's got 10 sections. It is not within the scope of this presentation to cover all these sections. I'm going to focus on one section, which is the evidence. And this is the one that require you to write your own words. All the other sections almost are either tick boxing or just filling information about, when you graduated, what university you graduated from, what was your undergraduate degree, MBBS or MBCHB, whatever. Or your exams, when did you do your MRC BCH part 1, your part 2, or whatever. So we're going to focus today on the evidence. And what evidence are we talking about? These are the sections that you will be scored for by the shortlisting committee. So the long listing committee will look at the broader aspects to see whether you can go to the next level, which is the shortlisting. So they will make sure that you have got a GMC registration. They will make sure you are eligible to work here. And then the shortlisting committee will look at these points, as you can see it on the screen: clinical experience, quality improvement and audit, management experience and leadership, research achievements, publications, presentations and posters, and your education and teaching experience also, plus a final statement to support your application. We will talk about these sections in a bit of detail in the coming few slides. These are the sections, I just repeat again, these are the sections where you have to write in text what you want them to know about you. And these are the sections that will decide whether you are a good candidate or you are not for shortlisting. So the first one is the clinical experience. And this is, I'm talking about ST1, ST2, ST3, and ST4. So I will make my wording generalized. If you have not worked in pediatrics before, but you are applying for ST1, this will not disadvantage you at all. So if you graduated, you finish your foundation, and then you are just about to go into training and you want to apply for pediatrics, that is absolutely fine. You can do that. It is not required to have a previous experience in pediatrics if you are applying for ST1. Although, having said that, if you are applying for ST3 and ST4, you definitely need previous pediatric experience, and you definitely need to have done some of your MRC PCH exams. If you are applying for ST2 and you are applying for fast tracking, so you've got kind of some experience, but not enough to take you further, and you want to start from ST2, but you want to spend only 2 years in level 1, move on to the next level, then you have to have at least 12 to 24 months of pediatrics experience before that. I will leave this for you to read on the application guidance, which is on the corresponding pages, as we mentioned earlier. If you have been working in ENT and you wanted to apply to pediatrics, absolutely fine. You just have to find a way to link experience in ENT or dermatology or whatever system you're working in, to link it to pediatrics and make it look better when someone is reading your application. They will not think that you just woke up from sleep and decided to, ditch ENT and go to pediatrics. The clinical experience they want you to present in your summary will focus on general themes, which are your patient family-centered approach, the management of acute pediatric and neonatal emergencies, and the common practical procedures. And you have to give examples for that to make yourself more, real. Writing generic statements will not help you. So if you write, I am excellent at communication with parents and family, I'm excellent at communication with kids of different ages, this doesn't mean anything, because 100 people will have written the same thing. It will make you better looking if you write, I am excellent at communication. This has been reflected in feedback from my colleagues in my MSF or in my feedback from my seniors. I have once been involved in a difficult conversation with an angry parent, and I have managed to diffuse the situation by sitting down and talking to them. Once you say this, then they know that you have real life experience of knowing how to communicate. It is not just saying, I am good at communication. That is not enough. Similar for when you write, I'm good at practical procedures. Don't be afraid to say, I am excellent at putting a peripheral IV cannulation. I'm good at putting peripheral IV cannulas, and people call me in my department, people call me for difficult cannulas or for difficult IV access. That will give you a point, definitely. And the most important from the clinical experience, what they want you to mention in the application form is what have you learned from the experience that you have had. As I mentioned earlier, if you have been in ENT, or if you have been doing acute medicine, or if you have been doing any other specialty, what have you learned from that experience that you can bring down to pediatrics when you come and join training? And this is the relevance, the last point on the left side, the relevance to pediatrics. What does this experience, why does this experience make you a better candidate to apply for pediatrics? This is what they want. You can't just be listing points and saying, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this. Everybody is good at something. How do they know that you are good? You have to give real examples, make it relevant to pediatrics. Sell it in a better way, use nice phrases, and then you will get the highest marks. Before moving to the next section, I would like to mention that I'll go back to this, all these sections have got word limits, word count limits. So each section once you go to the application form, they will say clinical experience, speak about this and this, and they will find the question at the top, and between two brackets, they will say 250 word limit. So you have to be careful and clever and smart in how to use these limits, because you may have 100 experiences, you may have 100 encounters that you can use, but you can only focus on maybe 2 or 3, the best that you think can describe you and can make you a better candidate. Put them in those 250 words, link them, and this will make your application look better. Quality improvement and audit. This is a disadvantage for, this is one of the disadvantages we have as international medical graduates, especially if you are applying from overseas. So if you are applying for any of these levels from ST1 to ST4, and you have not worked in the NHS before, you might not have had the chance to do an audit or to be involved in a quality improvement project, depending on where you are and how the system resembles the NHS system. If you have been lucky enough to be in the UK while you are applying for training, then what you need to mention in this section is exactly what audits have you done so far, what was your exact role. This is why I mentioned earlier you have to read the person specifications, because it is clearly mentioned that if you have led and designed an audit by yourself, even if you got help from other colleagues, but this will give you the highest points in that section. And this has to be clearly written. I have led and designed an audit looking at steroid management of acute asthma presenting to the emergency department in a local hospital. When you put it like that, then they will know, oh, this person is good. He's done or she has done an audit by themselves. They have led and designed it, and I have presented the results. You have to do that. You have to mention which hospital you have done it, in a tertiary center, in a local DGH, or in a local hospital, a small hospital, big hospital. How it helped you change the service and how it helped the department. So after doing your audit, you found out that there is a problem with communication, or the nurses are not flagging certain things, or the doctors are not giving certain medication that should have been given based on the guidelines and all that. I'm not going to talk about audit and how to do an audit, because this is not the scope of this presentation again. How the findings have helped. You can say, for example, after doing, we found out that there are certain information when we wanted to collect about steroids that were missing from the patient's notes. And when we went back, we designed a proforma, an admission proforma for all acute admissions for wheezy children. That when we re-audited that, it was very clear that the information missing is now there, and we were able to design a better service or whatever we have done. the most important about all this is what did you learn? It's not just you have done an audit and you just did shit and go. No, I have done this audit, I've done this and this, we presented it, these are the results, this is how we change the service. I have learned from this audit that written communication is crucial in changing services and making services better, because as I mentioned earlier, for this audit, just for example, you couldn't find the information you wanted to make the service better. But when you designed the audit and when you did that pro forma and then the information is there, anyone who comes after you will be able to look at the service and say, this still needs improvement, this is fine, this is not fine, and so forth. And they will give you better points and more points if you complete the cycle of the audit. So if you have re-audited the same topic again, which is not easy unless you have spent some time in the same hospital, then that will give you, that's another brownie point, will give you extra score. I think I've been speaking too fast and maybe too much. Is there any question in the chat that I can't see? I need to answer. Anyone wants to stop me now? Am I okay? Can I continue on this pace, or can I change?
There is one question in the chat box, but I don't know. Do you want it now or do you want it later on?
Leave the questions for later. Okay. But shall I continue the same pace?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The management and leadership experience. For the management and leadership experience, this is also one of the things that we as international medical graduates or overseas people don't score well, because sometimes we've done things, but we don't know how to express it in our application forms. This can be an undergraduate, it can be a postgraduate thing. And this is what I mentioned earlier by saying that even things you have done as a medical student can be counted towards this application and can give you a score. What was the role that you have taken? So if you were the leader of a student union in your faculty of medicine or in your university, if you were a representative of a certain group of students or certain group of people while you were a medical student, you can use that as a management experience because you were a leader at that time. If you have helped, arranging, what is it called? Any assistance or help to people because of your admin role at the time, then that will give you extra points. If you are in the NHS, there are lots of leading roles and management roles that you can take. If you have been responsible for the rota, that is a management and leadership role. If you have been responsible for the teaching rota, that is another leadership management role that you need to do, that you need to mention in your application form. If you have been, let's say, working in Sudan or in Egypt, in anywhere in a single doctor hospital, during the national service, let's say, like we do in Sudan, that is a management experience because you were a single doctor hospital. You were responsible for nurses, pharmacists, lab technicians with you. Everyone was under your management. You just need to know how to mention that and how to use the word limit that you have to mention the experience. What have you learned about it and how did it help you to become a better professional that is now applying for pediatrics? So again, I keep mentioning this. It is not just that I have done this, I have done this, and I have done this. It is what have you learned and how did it make you a better person now when you are applying to pediatrics. As I said, don't underestimate any role that you have done. So I am currently part of the executive committee of British Association of Pediatrics and Child Health, which is the BSAPCH organizing this session. This is an admin role. This is a management role. because I am in an executive committee of a non-governmental organization. We are arranging sessions, we are helping people out. It is about how you write it, how you phrase it, and how you say that you have become better once you have been in that role. We can talk later on in the questions and answer sessions about other options and how you do that. If you've done it at a local level, you get the lower points. If you've done it at regional, then you get better points. And if you've done it at a national level, so if you are the BMA representative in your hospital now, then that is significant. Okay, if you have been working with the WHO, let's say leading any project for improvement of any kind of service somewhere, UNICEF or any other organization, then that is a national or sometimes international role. That will give you proper points if you phrase it the right way. Again, it's not just mentioning that I have been with the WHO. Doesn't mean anything if you don't show how you have learned, how you have done your role, what have you learned from it, and how did it make you develop as a professional. That's about management probably and leadership. Is it moving or? Is the slide moving?
Yes, it went to the next slide, if that's what you mean.
Research.
We are in research achievements, yeah.
Brilliant. Again, anything that you have done in research, okay, the first thing that comes into your mind when anyone mentions anything about research is what you can see on the photo on the right side of the screen, which is someone, in the lab wearing goggles and, dripping some kind of drops in some small tube and putting it in a machine and all that. That's not the case. It can be a very simple thing that you have done as a medical student that can be counted as research. So most of us in our undergraduate life, we have done some community service or rural, we call it rural. So you've been to a rural area, you probably have done some kind of health survey, looking at the needs and the health status of the region or the area that you have been to. That can easily count as some undergraduate research. It might not amount to the top score of having proper done research, which will get you a new, like new ideas, creating new ideas and all that. But as a medical student, that is a significant experience that you can mention in your application form. So you have to just be clear, what project have you done? How have you done it? So you have to be very clear in that as a medical student, I have been involved in this project. I was leading it. So you have to be careful in using the words. Have you been leading it? Have you been with a group of students, but you were the leader of that group? Or have you just been part of a group that were collecting information, collecting data? Did you analyze it? What did you do exactly? Did you collect the information? Did you analyze it? Did you present the final results? Or did you implement changes after having the results out? Any of these can count as a management, as a research experience. It's again about how you phrase it. Also, you can mention other things like in your own hospital, you are now presenting journal clubs. A journal club is about critical appraisal and evidence-based medicine and looking at the current evidence and criticizing it. We know that not all papers published are good. Not any research results can be reliable. So if you are able to criticize the already there results or the already papers that are published, that is another research experience. It is not as high as having done the research yourself, but it is better than nothing. So these can count also as part of your research experience. You just put it in. If you were working in a hospital when there is a national study going on, most hospitals now around the country here, or if you are applying from overseas, may be involved in researches. If you have recruited patients to that study, that will count as an experience. If you have done GCP course, which is the Good Clinical Practice, this is a GMC course for all people who wants to get involved in research in the NHS. If you haven't done it, I advise everyone before applying to go and do it. It's an online course. It takes only about 3 to 4 hours to finish online. And if you have done it before and it is expired, again, there is an online refresher course. Just Google GCP course refresher or GCP course, and then you'll find it. So these are all examples of research involvement that you can use. If you have done a proper research as a postgraduate, then yeah, why not put it in? If you have done masters, you have been doing a PhD, you have been doing a postdoctoral fellowship or anything, just put it in and say how you have done it, what was the project about, what did you do, how you presented it, what was the result, and how did this help you become again a better professional in understanding the importance of research in the field that you are applying for. So you know that pediatrics, research is helping now a lot. So recently, the new medicine for the new gene therapy for SMA, spinal muscular atrophy, is out. Certain hospitals are now participating in giving it to patients around the country here. So if you are part of that, mention that. That is a brownie point. Any comments so far? Do I need to take anything from the chat, or are we okay to move? I guess I will just go.
We're okay to move. We'll read the questions later.
Okay. The next section that you need to write down in text is the publications or presentations or posters that you have done. And this includes any oral presentations you have done, or posters, case reports, letters, review articles, or if you have written a chapter or a section in a book or a textbook. These can all count towards your score application form. If you have done them at a local level, only in your hospital, they score the least. If you've done them on a regional level, then they score better. But if you have done them on a national and international level, so as you have gone to an international conference, presented something, then this will give you the highest marks on it. If some of your work has been published, this is higher than presenting in a conference. So if you've got a publication, this will give you higher marks compared to presenting in a conference, especially if it is something other than case report. A case report will give you a less points compared to if you have review articles or EBM article or anything like that. In the application form, you have to very clearly state if you were the first author of that article, or if you were the second author, or if you are a co-author in that article. You can also state clearly, if you are not the first author, what was your role. You helped review again, you help read it again, you help edit it, anything you have done, just mention it. You have to put a link to the DOI link for your digital object identifier, which is a permanent link for your publication wherever it has been published. All the journals, the respectable journals that can publish your work will provide you with a DOI, and this you can put it. It's just a link. It's a link that takes directly to your article or your case report. So anything you have done in your local hospital can count. Local presentation or local posters. Regional conferences in the UK are multiple. Every region has got their own regional thing, and sometimes it's a specialty thing. So sometimes respiratory people will have their own thing, neonatal people will have it, allergy, rheumatology, pediatric emergency medicine will have their own conferences and their own regional meetings. You can present. Don't underestimate anything you have done, even a small audit you have done in your local hospital. If there is a regional conference or even a national conference or an international conference like the RCPCH, annual conference, submit your work to them. You will never know whether you will get accepted or not unless you submit. If you don't submit, you don't get it. If you submit, there is a chance you might get it, and there is a chance you might not. I think recently we have had a presentation from a guest speaker about publications, publishing or perishing. And the message he had was, if you don't submit, you don't exist. Because if you don't submit, no one will know about your work. No one will know about whether your work is good or bad. You better submit, and then someone will say, your work isn't good. You can either make it better, or your work is good, but need a bit of improvement, and then also you can say, oh, you've got excellent work, we're going to publish your work immediately. So look around, Google for conferences. It doesn't have to be a European conference or an American conference. It can be a conference in India, it can be a conference in Sudan, it can be a conference in Egypt, it can be a regional Gulf conference like the annual pediatric conference, in Dubai, or anything like that. So submit your work, use the daily clinical encounters you have, and get something out of it. Get the help of your seniors in the same hospital you're working in, get the help of your consultant, get the help of your supervisors to guide you and give you cases and good advice about what can be submitted and what is better to be submitted. There is a Sudanese Journal of Pediatrics, if you know about it. If you don't know about it, just Google Sudanese Journal of Pediatrics, and this journal has been there for a long time now. You can also submit your work to them. It is a PubMed index.
And you have 5 minutes more.
Okay, yeah, it is a PubMed index journal. So don't think because it's a Sudanese journal, then they're going to accept anything from you just because you're Sudanese or because you are in pediatrics. They will give you, the proper guidelines for submitting anything, and you have to be of high quality to be accepted. I have been through that process with them before. Education and teaching. All of us, have been involved in teaching. You just need to show what kind of involvement have you been doing. Have you led and designed teaching? If you have done that, this will give you high marks on your application. So say, I have designed the teaching rota in my local DGH for my peers. Or I have been responsible for the undergraduate teaching in my DGH, and I have received a certificate at the end from the university. So when you mention that, then people will know that you know what is teaching, and you know the importance of teaching. You have to mention all the kind of teaching methods that you have used. Have you been doing bedside teaching with medical students or with your peers? Have you been teaching in conferences? Have you been doing online teaching using different materials? Have you been doing practical teaching and simulations, leading simulations and all that? If you have any formal training in teaching, then you have to mention it. So say you have got a master's in medical education. This is brilliant. If you have it, mention that, because that will give you the highest mark in that section ever. There are other small courses that you can do. So like the generic and instructor course, the GIC, or teach the teacher course, which has got 2 formats. So there's a face-to-face one and there's an online one. It doesn't matter which one you do. If you do it, it will get you better points compared to saying, I have been teaching medical students in my hospital, and that's it. So having designed the rota for teaching gives you better. Having had a degree in teaching is better. having a course like Teach the Teacher is better and will give you the better points for that. I don't think I have much to say. Oh, this is the most important one and the last one in the section. Statement to support your application. This is about saying, I am excellent, please give me the job. But in that statement, this is the final statement. This is to give you the chance to say anything that you haven't said about yourself in the previous sections that we have spoken about already. You have to show the passion, the motivation, and the dedication to the specialty. So they need to see it coming from the lines when they are reading. When they are reading your application, they should see your face. They are smiling and feeling very happy when you are talking about pediatrics, because you are just about to join pediatric training. And this is your life. This is going to be your life for the rest of your life, your career at least. So if they don't see that in your handwriting, you're not going to be scored good in that section. Also, it's not just about saying, since I have been a medical student, they have been passionate about pediatrics, and I loved working with kids and their families. I loved the interaction with different ages, and what you can mention all that, but also you have to say what you want to do in pediatrics in general. And I aspire to become a future pediatric endocrinologist, and I'm working hard to be there. So you say what you want to do in pediatrics for the future, and what have you done so far to do that. This section is all about why should we give you the job. So make it personal. As I said earlier, avoid being generic. Saying I'm good at this or I'm good at this without giving examples doesn't mean anything. Give examples why you have chosen pediatrics. When I was doing my internship or when I was doing my foundation year, I encountered a case where in pediatric emergency or in A&E in a local hospital where a child came in a respiratory distress and all that. I mentioned all the things around the management of the child, and then from that point, I knew that I wanted to be a pediatrician to help save children's lives and be part of the brilliant team I have seen working in front of me. So you have to show it in the text that you are writing. Otherwise, you will not be seen as someone who is keen to do pediatrics. And if you look at this person specifications, it is clearly mentioned how they score it also. They say less examples relevant to pediatrics, not much motivation mentioned there, not very good, not very passionate about the specialty. This will score you less and is going to affect your final scoring, when you go to the interview, if you have been invited to the interview. So my final slide is about general themes that apply to all people applying for ST1, ST2, ST3, and ST4, regardless. And this applies to all the sections we have spoken about. It's all about quality, not about quantity. Because I mentioned earlier, the word limit will limit what you can write. If they give you 300 words to talk about your audits, if you have done 8 audits, they don't care about the 8 audits because you can't mention all the 8 audits in 300 words. You better mention 2 audits or one of them that you have done properly, that have helped change the service and had an impact on you as a professional and as a person and has made you better, in understanding the system and all that. This will give you higher than writing, I have done 5 audits, but they are very low quality. They have not changed the service and you have not learned anything from them. You have to show the relevance to specialty. As I said, this is important, especially for people who are coming from other specialties to pediatrics. So if you are working in Saudi Arabia in a general practice, in a healthcare center, and you want to do a pediatrics, you have to show them what have you done in your life so far that is related to pediatrics, and why does that make you a better candidate? So make it relevant to the specialty. This is important, especially for people who are applying for ST1 also. The passion and dedication, as I said, it has to glow. It has to glow from the lines you are writing. It has to show. I have to smell it when I'm reading your application. If I don't smell it, you're scoring less. Give examples, as I mentioned earlier, examples about being good at cannulation, examples about being good at communication, mention the angry parents, mention the difficult patient, mention the angry teenager who doesn't take the medications, but you've spoken to them, you've helped make their life better. When you talk about audits, mention that, you know, there are very important words if you mention about patient safety, communication, teamwork, MDT. These are words that they like to see in your application. If you mention them in the right way, in the right context, they score you better. You get invited to an interview. Don't be generic. I keep saying this. It is becoming boring now, but I have to repeat it 100 times. Don't be generic. Saying I'm good at something doesn't mean anything unless you show me how. How are you good at communication? How are you good at being a team player? How are you good at being a leader? If you show examples, I have been to a resuscitation scenario where it was very chaotic. I stood up and challenged and said, we need to lead this. There has to be a leader, and I led the situation. And then whatever the outcome of the scenario was, if the child died or lived, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because it's alive, but I mean for your application form, all that you need to say is you have been a good leader in a real life scenario, not just saying, I'm a good leader and you're just sitting and doing nothing. Make it personal. You have to mention things from your personal life. Don't be afraid to mention even things about your family, about your own life. If you think it helps you score better. I have mentioned, so when I applied for respiratory, I have mentioned that I've got a family that are all asthmatic. I have accompanied my brother to the emergency department many times with severe asthma. And this is important in showing them that there is a personal part of this career. And it's not just you are doing the job and, you know, earning money for it. Always say what you have learned. It doesn't matter if you have done 100 audits, but you haven't learned anything from them. That is not going to make you better. It's not going to score you a good score, and it's not going to get you shortlisted. Mention how that have made you a better person, how you have improved as a person or as a doctor. And I'll have to say something in Arabic at the end. If you believe, then يعني كما قال حمدوك سنعبر وسننتصر, ودي حقيقية. It is real. You will get shortlisted. You will get the job. Just believe in yourself. Use the right words. Use the right examples. Get someone to have a look at your application, and I'm sure you'll be there. Thank you, and let's get the questions.
Thank you very much, Hani. Okay, I'll start by reading the questions now.
I can look at the chat also.
Sorry?
No, I'm looking at the chat also, but you can read.
Okay.
Because I missed a lot of them. Okay,
so until you find them, I will start reading the first question. I have no neonatal experience at all, but I have valid NRP and 4 weeks clinical attachment in an ICU, and I'm applying for ST Fast Track. How do they evaluate such experience? And what would be my chances?
Applying for which level?
She just said ST. I don't know. It's not mentioned. Tarzan, if you're there, you can open your mic and speak to Hani if you want.
Hello, marhaba. Thank you for the presentation. I'm applying for Fast Track ST2.
Okay. And you have got some pediatric experience?
I have like 3 years in emergency and like 4 years in general pediatrics.
Fair enough. That is absolutely fair enough. As long as you know when you fill the form, there is a form that you have to fill that shows what competencies you have. As long as you show them what have you been doing in the last few years in your life, then you can progress faster as a fast tracker. And the NRP. So when we say there are courses, there are stuff that you have to do for application form. These can be. This doesn't have to be the UK stuff that we do here, because if you have been in the Gulf or if you have been in Ireland, there are different courses that can serve the same thing. So APLS is similar to PALS, NRP is similar to NLS. So all these courses will count and it will get you shortlisted. Shortlisted for ST2, and it will help you also fast track, as long as you mentioned very clear.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Again, Razan is saying that I have no experience in audit or quality improving program, but I took courses. Would that help?
It will help. If you have done a course like, let's say, Introduction to Audit, so you want to be involved in an audit, but you are now working in a department that doesn't have, let's say, they don't have the concept of audit in where you are working. So I come from Saudi Arabia. I have never seen audit before there. So it doesn't score you. It will score you less, of course, because other people would have done an audit, but it doesn't mean that you are not going to get the job if you get better scores in the other sections.
Okay, the next question, Ala is saying, I'll move to UK in the upcoming months from overseas as a first service job. Is it wise to apply for ST3, ST4 level?
It depends on, I don't know what previous experience you have. Of course, have you finished all your exams? Is it only just the clinical left for you? Because there are certain personal specifications. Again, I will get back to that. You have to read the personal specifications. But in terms of the word wise to apply for ST3 and ST4, yes. After coming from overseas and staying in your service post for a short period of time, because if you apply now, your job is going to start in August/September 2022. So you have enough time to understand the system. If you have enough experience and you are confident you can start at ST4, go for it, but I don't advise it. I advise you to go for ST3.
Yeah. Okay, Mutawakkil, I can see that you are raising your hand. Go ahead and ask the question, and then I'll go back to the chat box.
Hello, hello, Hani.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you for nice presentation and guidance. I'm here in UK for last 2 years in pediatrics, and currently I'm working as ST3 level at DGH, and I did apply 2 times before for ST3, ST4 level, but unfortunately I haven't been selected. Also, last time I have been shortlisted for the interview, and I get a nice score in the interview, but it's still I haven't been selected. So this time I'm thinking to apply for both, for ST1 and ST3, ST4, but I don't know what is the how you are going to advise me, because if I stayed outside of the training, for another year, in case if they didn't take me for the next year, it will be just a disaster, So I will be another year outside the program. So what do you think? How you advise me?
It's not a disaster, that's to start with. But I really understand the frustration you have been through. I think one of your applications may be the COVID one, when they did not select many people anyhow, regardless. But in the second one, when you have been shortlisted and you went to the interview, have you received feedback for that?
Yeah, there is no real feedback, but they score us, they give us the score.
They just give you the numbers.
Yeah.
If you ask them, you can email the Royal College and say, oh, can you please send me the remarks of the interview panel for my previous interview, because this is crucial for you getting the next one. Because if you don't know what you did well and what you did not, then how are you going to improve? It is a bit difficult. But nothing. you can probably score better in the application form if you make it and you phrase it in a better way. That will help boost. So if you are only losing by 1 or 2 marks, you have done a little bit this year in your application form, then that can boost you. But I don't advise you to apply for ST1. You have got enough experience to skip that. This is just I mean, this is the real waste of time if you start from that back. I know the number of jobs available for ST1 and ST2 is 400 something, and the number of jobs available for ST3 is jobs something around that number. But again, I will not be advising anyone with your experience to go back and track. This is the real waste of time, and it will get you frustrated. Being treated as an ST1 and ST2 in this system isn't nice. Yeah. So don't do that.
Yeah, thank you for advice.
Okay, I think there are a lot of questions and we're running out of time, but we'll try to answer as much as we can. So Tagreed is saying, is it true that fast tracking is regional dependent?
Absolutely, idea, but it is a generic question in the application form. So when you apply, they will ask you, are you interested in applying for fast tracking? There is a click. You put a tick on that, and if you put a tick, I don't think it matters which dinner you are applying for. But the better person to answer that, national email and ask them clearly, and they will give you the answer.
Okay, Nada is saying, I'm currently working in Saudi Arabia, preparing for my clinical. What's your advice for me to prepare myself for training?
Finish your exams and come for a service post.
Okay, Mohammed is saying, is ST1 fast track competition is different than ST1 normal application?
No, because both of them, you are competing for a position in pediatrics. After you join pediatrics, you tell them, oh, you know what, I've got previous experience. Can you please fast track me? Then they can consider that. But for getting the job, no. You can get better, by the way, because you can't fast track unless you already have experience. Having experience means you will score better in the application and maybe also score better in the interview.
Okay, Ala is saying, do you advise someone with full membership and 7 years of overseas experience in PEDS and few months in UK to apply for ST2 fast tracking?
No. Big no. Don't go back. You are wasting your time. Just get yourself sorted for ST3 and ST4.
Yeah. This is something else. Mohammed is saying, is there a workshop that will be organized for interviews?
Yes, no. There is a plan. There is a plan to do that, but we'll see how it goes. But we're doing it annually. Yes.
I think that's it. I can't see any more questions. Hani, can you have a look at the chat box quickly? I don't think there's anything else.
No, I'm looking at it. Yeah, there's nothing.
Is there anybody who has any question who wants to ask directly? We're running out of time anyway, so Razan.
Let's get Sarah, unless someone else wants.
Razan, raise your
hello
hand.
again. Yeah. For teaching experience, can I use me being as an instructor in the PLS as a teaching experience? Being an instructor and having. Okay.
Yes, that is very good. If you're an instructor in a resuscitation course, that scores you much better than just being a provider. Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. So I think it's time to move to the next topic now. So it's my pleasure to introduce. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to know whether the experience in pediatrics needs to be a recent experience, or does it matter how recent is it? If it's like, for example, 5 years ago and like 1 year ago, does it make any difference?
Do you mean like someone worked in pediatrics and then left pediatrics for a while and then is going back to pediatrics now?
Yes. So I work in neonatal ICU.
Yes, and any experience you had, as I mentioned, even the experience you had as a medical student will count. Nothing will go with the wind. It is all counted, even if you left pediatrics and came back again. It does count.
If I can add here to the gentleman who have asked, Hani.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think in pediatrics there is a need, a significant need, and especially for male colleagues. And if you, in your application, explain, for example, why you left pediatrics and give a good reason why you are coming back to pediatrics, you will get a good chance, because actually we are looking for people to come back to pediatrics. So you need just to write your application in a way to say, impress them or convince them that you're coming for pediatrics this time for the last time and you're not going to leave it again.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, shall we move to the next session or?
Yes.
Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce